Well, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? So, here I am at a very unique location in our apartments. This is actually a lounge area and a bar. And every evening around 5 p.m., the bar gets opened here. So the guy comes, the bartender comes. You can come here, watch sports, TV, play pool, chill, relax. So everybody comes from work around 5. So from 5 to like midnight. Just right in our complex, this lounge turns into a very busy bar and everything. So it's just a really relaxed place. And you know me, I'm here every night. Well, not really, but I have been here. Yeah. So today we're going to do a very important video, kind of a video that was long overdue, but I just thought I'd do it because I suddenly ran into a quote from the master of astrology, Kapiel Raaj. And the reason why that quote sparked my sudden interest to make this video is because I suddenly, reverted back to what my uncle said, which I think he might have read this book too. And he told me this about planets in Nakshatras, is that planets fulfill the promise of the planet in whose Nakshatra they're sitting in. I'm going to repeat that again. Planets fulfill the promise of the Nakshatra Lord that they're sitting in. And obviously, if you're new to my channel and you don't know what the hell is this Nakshatras and things like that, Nakshatras are the oldest form of zodiac signs. There are 27 constellations in the sky that planets go through. Just like planets go through, like Sun goes through Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Leo, things like that. Planets, including Sun, goes through 27 constellations that are working behind the scenes of the zodiac sign. So if Sun is in Aries, it could be in Bharani, Krittika, it could be, if it's in Gemini, it could be in Ardra, Mrigashīrsha, things like that. So, and I've already made videos on what are nakshatras. I've taken the most important planet Moon in your horoscope through those nakshatras in my YouTube channel, so you can see how you actually think. This is like the most refined way of seeing how things are happening in your horoscope. But just like Moon or Sun, you have other planets that go around the zodiac belt, and they're going through some zodiac sign and some nakshatra at some point. Okay, they're never not in any nakshatra. They're always under nakshatra. Okay, so from Sun, Moon, Jupiter, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, North Node Rahu, South Node Ketu, including Uranus and Neptune, are all going through certain nakshatras, are all going through certain zodiac sign. So what I'm going to show you today or talk about today is how is it that these planets are fulfilling that destiny. Although I'm not going to go through every nakshatra and every planet, which I plan to do next year when I go through planets through nakshatras, because I know you guys said, hey, why are you teaching these basics to us? You need to teach us all this advanced stuff. The thing is, I cannot teach you calculus without teaching you what 2 plus 2 is, what the fractions are, what is a denominator and numerator, I have to teach you these basic stuff, because without these basic stuff, you learning the advanced stuff is useless. And there are a lot of people who already know about all these stuff. Well, you're going to have to wait, because there are a lot of people who are interested in this thing. They want to learn this thing from A through Z, and it's always best to learn from the basics, then the advanced. Okay, so this is why I go through Lord through houses, planets through signs, planets through houses. But next year, I'm also going to go planets in a certain sign in a certain house. What does it mean? You guys probably know what Venus in Sagittarius means, and you guys probably know separately what Venus in the 11th house means, but you do not know really how to combine those two together. So Venus in Sagittarius in the 11th house, that's going to be discussed next year, and I'm writing the book too, Planets Through Ascendant. It's going to be a 700-page book that shows you all the planets through all the houses, through all the ascendants. So we did them separately. Now I'm going to do them together. I'm kind of 35% of the way done, but this is one of the parts to it that is very interesting. So let's discuss planets through nakshatra and what did this quote mean of them fulfilling the promise of the nakshatra Lord that they sit in. And before we get started with the nakshatra video, if you want to know where your planets are placed and what nakshatra they're placed in, so you can come back to this video and refer to this video. For that, check out this link here so you can get your full astrological report with more stuff that you'll ever need to know, including my books, Astrology, Conjunction, and Aspects at the Speed of Light, so you can learn aspects and conjunction in the most detailed manner, because all these things are important in making beautiful predictions. So planets and nakshatras. What does it mean when planet is in a nakshatra, and why are they fulfilling this, or how are they fulfilling this promise? Well, one thing you got to know, let's say you go on the internet like I used to, and I used to find redundant copy-pasted information of what each Mahadasha is, what you're going to experience in that Mahadasha. Like let's say Saturn, you're running through Saturn Mahadasha. Everywhere you're going to read, Saturn is going to bring misery, Saturn is going to bring delay, frustration, Saturn is going to, bring you a lot of hardship and misery. And people get scared, like, okay, my 19 years of Saturn Mahadasha is completely screwed because this is what I'm going to experience. Well, here's the thing. Saturn does represent those things. Hard work, frustration, delay, structure, organization. But you got to remember, most of the people do not run into Saturn Mahadasha in their youth. Some people can run in through their Saturn Mahadasha in their 30s, 40s, 50s, where Saturn is a lot more calmer, and Saturn is now helping them become organized, helping them become more disciplined, helping them become more hardworking. And there's nothing wrong with that. You should want this. However, Saturn is not always just doing this one track thing that you see on the websites. It's not doing this one track thing that you might read in the books as well. Because in this 19-year period, a person gets married, a person has children, a person has a good time, they laugh, they travel, they enjoy their life. Sure, they can get into some accidents, they may get sick and go to hospital, but there's so many multitudes of things that are happening in this 19 years that you can't just say you'll be miserable, frustrated, and everything will be delayed for you for 19 years. That is the most bullshit statement anybody can ever tell you. Because in Saturn period, Saturn is not only bringing the results of the sign he's sitting in, the house that he's sitting in, but he's bringing the results of the houses he rules in your horoscope, and he's expressing those two houses through that sign and house that he's sitting in. Then finally, he's also fulfilling the promise of the nakshatra lord that he's sitting in, or the nakshatra that he's sitting in. He's fulfilling the promise of the planet who rules that nakshatra. So in that 19-year period, he may do that in the very beginning, he may do that in the middle, he may do that in the very end, but it will all depend on the timing, the Mahadasha, the Antradasha, the Pariyantradasha, including the Charadasha. And if you don't know any of these terms, I'm going to put them in my description. Click on them, watch a video on them. It's like walking a park. What is a Mahadasha? It's a time period that you run into in your life that is controlled by a single planet. So it could be 6-year time period, 10-year time period, 16-year time period. And so Saturn is a 19-year time period. Okay? So let's say if Saturn is sitting in the 10th house in Sagittarius, and he's sitting at 16 degrees in the nakshatra Purva Ashadha, controlled by Venus. Purva Ashadha is a nakshatra, one of the 27 nakshatras, which happens to be in the sign of Sagittarius. That means that Saturn is first of all controlling the 11th and the 12th house, because Saturn controls the sign of Capricorn and Aquarius. And when he's in the 10th house in Sagittarius, that means the 11th house is now controlled by Saturn and 12th house is controlled by Saturn. So in Saturn Mahadasha, first of all, he's going to give you gains of the 11th house and promotion of the 10th house, because he's sitting in the house of career. He's sitting in the house of promotion, sitting in the house of reputation. He's controlling the house of gains and expenses and foreign travels of the 12th house. And he's going to express that through the 10th house. So when I look at it, I'll say to this person, just from this information, that in this time period, you're going to be getting a lot of gains and you're going to be getting a promotion in this time period, meaning your reputation will increase in your work and society. But at the same time, your work and your career is going to be dealing with foreign travel or foreign relations or doing export import of foreign things. Also, what it could mean is this. If, let's say, Jupiter is in the ascendant in the sign of Pisces, because right now Saturn is sitting in the 10th house of Sagittarius. That means Pisces is the ascendant. So, and if Jupiter is sitting there, that means Jupiter is making your entire life, about higher knowledge, spiritualism. And Saturn is sitting in the sign of Sagittarius, which is about spiritualism, which is about higher knowledge, and he's controlling the 12th house of spirituality, expenses, and foreign travel. It can also mean that your career reputation could also take place in the spiritual realm. You could be a spiritual advisor and guru who travels abroad and do these things. It could happen. Don't think these things are rare. They could happen. You can be like K.N. Rao. K.N. Rao was a government employee. Okay, I don't know if he was an IAS officer or IIS, he was in tax or something. And in that period, although he was doing his government thing, he was also doing astrology. He was also following the path of gurus. He was meeting all these wonderful gurus. His guru Bhaskaranand came into this lifetime in this time period. He learned Jaimini astrology through Maruti, Vemuri Maruti. Okay, he's the original guy in Andhra Pradesh who created Gemini astrology or was practicing with Gemini astrology. And while K.N. Rao was traveling for his work, in train, he came upon information on Virumi Maruti. So things like that will happen in Saturn's period because he's not only fulfilling and expressing the house that he controls into the 10th house, he's also expressing the sign that he's sitting in of Sagittarius and its Lord Jupiter. This is why it's always important to see the whole chart. But if it's sitting in the nakshatra of Purva Ashadha and whose lord is Venus, and let's say Venus is sitting in, sitting in the 5th house, Saturn will also at some point fulfill the promise of Venus, which is romance, creativity, self-expression. So at any point in this Mahadasha, first of all, Saturn is going to be bringing you a lot of confident, mature, and organized women in your life because he is sitting in the nakshatra of Venus. But at the same time, because Venus is in the 5th house, Saturn is fulfilling the promise that you will also, in this 19-year period, you will be becoming more expressive in your creativity. And you are going to be absolutely disciplined and organized about your self-expression and creativity. And you, in this 19-year period, will have a wonderful romance, a very spiritual, a very philosophical romance with a woman. Now, in a woman's chart, there are a lot of lesbians that can represent the same thing. Or you may find a spiritual guru who's a female who's going to help you express your desire, your inner ambition through a very spiritual method. So, and also you got to look, is that from Saturn, Venus is now in the 8th place from itself because 5th house is 8th from the 10th house. This can also mean a lot of transformation through a woman. Through a woman, your life was transformed upside down. Whether good or for bad, again, we'll have to go through a lot of details on this before I can say, oh, you can have a bad dramatic experience or good dramatic experience. But a woman, the promise that is being fulfilled is that a woman will dramatically transform your life in this 19-year period. And especially the time period that it can happen is Saturn, Mahadasha, and Venus Antradasha. Let's take Saturn again. Let's say Saturn was sitting in the sign of Capricorn in the ascendant in the Dhanishta Nakshatra. And Dhanishta Nakshatra is controlled by Mars. And Mars was sitting in the 6th house. Okay? So you're going through a 19 period of, of your Mahadasha. So Saturn, first of all, sitting in his own sign. Very strong. And Saturn controls the 2nd house of wealth. So in Saturn time period, you will be making your wealth through your own efforts. Why is this? Through your own efforts, you'll be making your own wealth. Because Saturn controls the 2nd house of self-earned wealth sits in the first house of your body, yourself, and at the same time aspects the third house from the ascendant. So that means you are putting effort into earning your money. So it can show you worked on your own. Through your own efforts, you were making your own money. So this is what Saturn is going to show you. It's going to show you you're going to be involved with family business or your own family, your family after marriage in this time period. You're going to be working on your whole self. There are time periods where people don't concentrate on themselves. All these women and men who go through these shrinks, they're like, oh my God, I'm so miserable. I have been devoting my time to my wife and kids. What's happening? And then suddenly the psychologist tells them, you're not paying attention to yourself. You're not taking care of yourself. And suddenly they realize, oh my God, I got to take care of myself. I got to do things for myself. And that pretty much, those things happen through time. That means he must be coming to his Saturn Mahadasha. Saturn is in the ascendant in its own sign. So in this 19-year period, the person works on himself. His personality becomes more disciplined, becomes more organized, likes doing repetitive, things, exercising every morning, and he's really wanting to concentrate on himself. He's trying to make money and wealth for his family, dealing with family, and he's also dealing with putting his own efforts into things, and his willpower is very strong. So that's what's happening, Saturn Mahadasha in its own sign. And obviously the Antardasha will come and bringing all these situations. But now Saturn is sitting in the Dhanishta Nakshatra of Mars. And Mars is in the 6th house. So what is the promise that Saturn is here to fulfill of Mars? Mars is what? Mars is your brothers, your courage, your self courage and your efforts. It's your fighting ability, it's your energy. It represents land. It represents real estate. It represents army and fighting. And in the 6th house, he's in a competitive mode. He's in a competitive mode, ready to attack people. He's in a competitive mode, ready to fight to the death. And if you notice, in this ascendant, Mars is also controlling the 4th house of land and home. So the promise that Saturn will be fulfilling of Mars is that this person in this 19-year period will be involved in disputed property. And they will have to fight some court case where they will have to gain a property through dispute. They will be fighting a lot of competition, and they will have to, it's like it's destined for them to run into some either physical combat or some legal combat or any kind of business competition that they will have to fight and they will have to win. Mars does not like losing. So Mars rather die than lose. And since Saturn is a nakshatra of Mars, he is now trying to become more competitive and trying to take care of all his opponents in the 3rd house that he aspects, 7th house and the 10th house of career. And since Mars is in the 6th house, this person is going to, in this 19-year period, going to be running through competition of all these areas, and they're going to defeat him. Why? Because Mars would rather die than lose. Mars will never lose. A soldier will not say, I lost. He said, no, you better kill me before you lose. So now Saturn, doing everything else that is supposed to do in his Mahadasha, is now also fulfilling the promise of Mars, which is here to tell him that, look, you're going to have to fight a battle, especially regarding property, because I'm ruling your house of property as well. And I'm the Karaka, significator of property. And this is how next year, I'm also going to writing my book as well on the Nakshatra, so you guys understand this better. So when I look at a chart, everything is in front of me. Yesterday somebody gave me a chart, say, Kapiel, can you look at this chart? The first thing I saw, you must be in death-like situations that you overcome them. And this person might be watching this video today. And she's right. She emailed me back. She said, yeah, doctors told me that I was on deathbed for all this time, but then somehow I overcame it. How did I predict this? I not only looked at the signs and what was happening with the yogas. There was a Papkartri yoga happening, but I saw the nakshatra of the Mahadasha Lord that she was running into, and it was Jupiter. And I'm like, Jupiter is looking at the ascendant. Jupiter, you're fulfilling the promise of Jupiter, which is Jupiter is here to save your life because he's looking at the ascendant. He is helping you. And that planet was in the nakshatra of Jupiter, and that's how easy it was to make this prediction. So this is how you look for planets in nakshatra. But obviously, when I tell you the meaning of what Saturn is doing in Dhanishta, what Saturn is doing in Purva Ashadha, and all the other planets, that's when it will really become magic, which I can't cover right now because I'm still taking you guys through houses. Then you're going to go through planets, through signs and houses. So it's all coming. It's all going to get very exciting. But this is how planets in nakshatra work. All right. So guys, if you're new to my channel, subscribe below. And if you want to know what nakshatra your planet is in and where they're sitting, for that, check out this link here so you can go and get your full astrological report on this website that tells you where each planet is in, what nakshatra is in, also including my books on aspect, conjunction, and astrology, so you can learn exactly in the most detailed manner what is happening in your horoscope. All right. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow with 4th Lord in the 6th house. Bye-bye.